Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Beyond the Label podcast. I am your host, Leanne, and today we have here a very special guest, Jeff Sang from Hong Kong. So he is actually a maritime influencer and ship captain for 8 years. I've never heard of anyone else who does this profession, and he shares really cool videos of his maritime journey on his social media, and we'll get to know all about that. So hi, Jeff.
Hi. Thank you for having me. I'm flattered.
So to kickstart this interview, the first question I think everyone have in their mind is that what exactly is it you do as a ship captain? And just maybe tell us a little bit about how you got into this industry.
So for the past 8 years, I sailed on big ships, so up to 400-meter ones, and we take the role of a navigator. We pretty much do what would a airline pilot would do. We will just sit in the controlling room, the bridge we call it, and we will monitor the equipment while the autopilot is running. So our role is a navigator.
So when you're on a ship for a very long time, what do you guys eat?
So we have a cook on board the ship, and they live with us for an extended period of time. So, for example, my contract was 6 to 10 months on the ship, living on the ship at a time, and the cook will do the same. He'll do 6 to 10 months, and he'll just prep all the meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. For us, and we'll eat anything. Well, it really depends on the cook. If he's Chinese, then we'll predominantly Chinese food. If he's Filipino, then it'll be more Western style. Yeah.
Do you guys eat fish that you just pick up on your way, or do you like store enough food for like 10 months on the ship before you board?
We actually can't really catch fish while we're on board because the ship goes too fast. But what we'll do is usually when we arrive at a port, we'll load up on provisions into our cold room, and that will usually range from 7 days to up to a month. So, maximum a month we'll replenish our stores and get fresh food, fresh frozen food.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds cool. I mean, at least it's different cuisines. Like you have Chinese food, you have different types of things. I was just expecting like fish fingers or like space astronaut type of frozen food, like canned things.
The space astronaut food will be for emergency provisions, like the packet ones. But the food that we eat on cargo ship will be similar to the food we eat in on cruise ships.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so most food you eat on cruise ships are actually frozen. Like they're not 100% fresh. Half of them are fresh, like fruits and stuff will be of course fresh, but they'll package it and then frozen in a big cold room, and then similarly they'll take it out to cook it.
So you and your crew members, you all live on the ship for like 10 months, and so I'm guessing it's kind of like a big family, right? Like how many people are there usually, and what's the vibe like on the ship?
I worked on 2 types of ships before. I worked on a container ship. I worked on multiple container ships, and I've also worked on a hospital ship, which is kind of like a passenger ship, but for doctors and nurses providing medical aid to Papua New Guinea. And the passenger ship, the hospital ship, had about 120 people. So that one was really like a family, and everyone was around the same age. As for the cargo ship, the most people I've had was about 27, 28.
Okay.
And they're mostly actually all of them are guys for that one. So females, they don't really work on cargo ship because it's just the industry as a whole, how it evolved. But yeah, for that one, it's more less of family, but more like just friends environment. Yeah. And with sailors, we're more rough around the edges. So in the all guys situation, it's more I'll just say a friends environment.
I mean, that sounds really fun because when I grew up, I watched this show on Disney Channel called Sweet Life on Deck.
Okay.
I don't know if you watch it, maybe not.
No.
But it's basically just like some kids. They were studying. They were students on a cruise ship.
Mm.
Yeah, and it looked really fun. So I don't know. I'm imagining everything to be very fun, like a big vacation.
On the passenger on the hospital ship, it was really fun. Yeah, we had like board games on board, and we have games night.
Yeah.
Games night. So not even just board games, games night, and then a lot of activities. And we even have little kids, like their whole family came on board. So like anyone from like 3 years old to 10 years old. So there's like a kids group on there. There's like a parents group, and yeah, that hospital ship was really fun. As for cargo ship, it'll be more just a working environment.
Okay.
Yeah, strictly.
Since you're on a ship, for so long, what's the craziest thing that you've ever seen or experienced throughout these months?
The craziest would be going through the Red Sea, Gulf of Aden, around that area, which is near Somalia. So that's where the a lot of pirates are infested, and we do encounter pirates a lot, but because we have security guards on board, and most of the time they will have it's sort of like a mutual agreement that when the pirates see the security guard on board, they'll move on to the next ship and to try and check the next ship. So it's almost like whether if you pay the toll, it's kind of like bouncers checking for ID card at a club kind of thing. It's if you have a security guard, they'll just let you go for they'll let you go easy. So that was kind of tense and interesting. I've also had a lot of UFO encounters of aliens. I don't know.
What?
So what happened is we go through Pacific Ocean and Atlantic Ocean a lot, and it's like 3,000 kilometers away from the nearest civilization, and planes, they don't circle around Pacific at all, because they'll go higher through the equator, because it's short distance since the globe is a sphere. Yeah, and so there's not much lights on the sky during nighttime. Most lights we'll see is either satellites or stars. So when we see a moving light, we'll think it's a plane. Maybe it's a plane that's very steered kind of far away, or going across the equator, going to a remote country or something. But the reason why we suspect is a UFO is because how it flies through the night sky. The usually planes, they fly in a linear fashion, in a straight line. But for these strange lights, they kind of go squiggly all over the place, and they accelerate. At the end, they'll accelerate really fast and up, and then disappear. So that was it. Yeah, and at night, by law, we must have two people on watch. So every time we see that, I'll ask the other guy. It's like, hey, did you see that light? He's like, yeah, that was weird. And then so I think it's UFO do exist, but it's just interesting thought.
Wow. I have so many questions. Pirates first. Are they like Pirates of the Caribbean? Do they go around in like a cruise type of ship? And do they have like cannons on the side of their ship to like ready to blast you guys? And do they wear like pirate caps and parrots on deck? I don't know what it's like.
So the modern days pirates, they actually they'll be more like just a regular guy in t-shirt and shorts. They wear slippers on the speedboats. They do have cannons, but it's more in a form of RPG,
Okay.
like a rocket launcher. Yeah, and they have machine guns and stuff like that.
Oh my god.
Less romanticized like Pirates of the Caribbean, but more more dangerous and modernized. Yeah.
Okay, that is good to know. And for the alien thing, have you guys ever tried to like wave or like make contact with them, or when they appear, is there like weird things around?
So, for example, if you at the nighttime, if you see a plane and you watch it go by, they're just so far away that you can't really interact with them. So there's nothing interesting or weird happening except for the light. Yeah.
Okay.
And even though we're either amazed or at all or scared or surprised, we can't really do much other than just observing it. Yeah. interesting to look at.
Very interesting. So, what is the most difficult thing for you being on deck for so long, like not seeing your friends, not going to your favorite restaurants, not being on a land, and not feeling like the security of being on a ground, a physical ground?
So, being on a ship for such a prolonged period of time, it has a dopamine detox kind of effect. What I mean is that once you're away from your family for such a long time, you start to value more the quality time that you spend with family. Like before I started the shipping job, I would play video games and not really talk to my family or grandma a lot. Like my mom will call me down, I come for dinner, and I'll be like, oh yeah, just a second, let me finish my game. But after sailing out to sea for such a long time, I start to value more on time with my family. And nowadays I'll spend a lot of time just sit down and talk to my grandma for an hour or something. But back when I was a kid, before this job, I would just think it's kind of like there's better use of my time, yeah, on other stuff. And at the same time, when you ask like, do I miss the food or anything like that, it also is once you're away from shore, everything from junk food to McDonald's to just what's it called, wanton mee and stuff like that, you start to value it a lot more. So it's kind of like a dopamine detox on all levels, because you're deprived of those connections, those relationships, those commodities that you start to value them a lot more.
When you first started, like 8 years ago, did you go through a time where you were adapting to this new lifestyle? Did you go through any like mental adjustments and mindset changes? And if you did, how did you adapt and cope with it?
I think it has to do a lot with individuals' personality. Like I'm more of an introvert person where I can be alone and do things on my own. So I don't really have a need of an extrovert where I need to go out with friends all the time and stuff like that. So I think for me, I adjusted quite well to this kind of working environment quickly. But I remember the first ship that I went on, it took me about 3 days to really get comfortable. Like I'll kind of lose sleep over the night just thinking about the isolation, the sailing life that's ahead of me. And there'll be nights where I would like cry to sleep, kind of thing, just from the little bit of homesick and just missing the family kind of thing. But I think it was a good growing up experience for me, just to be more independent and being able to be alone. And I think that's a lot of people. A lot of people will struggle with that. Is being able to disconnect from the distractions of life. Finding a hobby or something that you keeps yourself occupied, where you feel like you're progressing in life, helps a lot. So at the start, I would watch movies, watch drama, and play video games while work. And to me, I felt at some point I felt kind of unhappy about my life, because to me, when I'm already sailing out to sea, it feels like I'm already wasting away the best time of my life, 20 to 30 years old kind of thing. But doing these leisure things like gaming and stuff, it makes me feel like I'm wasting my life even more. But now that I think back about it, gaming, watching movies, watching Netflix, and it's what most people do after work. Yeah. Then I realized I needed something more to improve myself. It's kind of like, in a game you train yourself and you level up. But then I start thinking, oh, maybe I should find ways to train myself and level up myself in real life. And I think that put my mentality and my mindset in a better place once I started thinking like that. And it helped me through those isolated life on board. Yeah, but it's not that isolated. You still get like 20 something people to live.
True.
Yeah, to social and interact with.
I mean, I absolutely agree because I think a lot of people have the same feelings, even just working from a 9 to 5 office job, that they're just stuck in the office all day and at home, just like sleeping or partying and not really doing anything to, to grow. I think it's really good that. I mean, you obviously found a hobby and you made all these videos, and I think you sharing that aspect of life is really like unusual in a good way, because essentially like the theme of the podcast is really breaking stereotypes and doing something unconventional, which is, I mean, I love it. It's just amazing.
I think I mentioned about it's almost like a big dopamine detox for me, and this is I think part of it, because when you watch a movie, when you watch Netflix, when you scroll on social media, which we kind of lacked on the ship, because back then the satellite internet was really slow and you have to pay a lot of money just to scroll through IG, and it consume a lot of data. So that put a restriction on how much social media you can consume. Whereas if you're living on land, there's no restriction. So you keep scrolling, and you keep getting that dopamine hit. And then they'll like the explore page will suggest you even more content. And you get even more dopamine hit. And I think your brain just rewired to liking that instant hit and the endless amount of dopamine hit. That you start to, well, after a while, you kind of like at night, after all these fun activities, all these time put into social media, you kind of regret what you've done. And I feel that too before I started this job. But once I start living on board and having that detox away from social media and embark on like self-improvement, self-learning journey, the slower dopamine release from self-learning and improving and learning, picking up new skills. So that's where I pick up my hobby of editing videos and stuff. That gave me much more fulfillment and happiness in my life. And I think it's your audience should try. Yeah.
Do you ever wish that you took up a more conventional job?
Well, interestingly, I actually did 2 years of business admin in uni before I switched over to maritime. And I've always wondered what my life would be if I didn't take up this job. But during the job, the being away from family, friends, and also all the fun activities on land, I've always wished I did a more conventional job. But now I think back at it, I feel like it was a very important part of becoming who I am today, and that because of this job, I've become more of a more focused person and more goal-driven, and also a more self-aware.
If there's anyone in the audience who's actually wondering how to be a ship captain, do they have to learn specific things, or is there like, can you be an intern on a ship, or do you need to take certain like knot tying classes?
So being a navigator or a captain on a ship, there is, for example, in Hong Kong, there is is Polytechnic, and also the acronym is MSTI, but it's like a maritime school in Hong Kong. So there's 2 pathways to get into it, and it takes about 3 to 4 years. So it's actually a full-fledged program. And you get a degree from it. You learn anything from operating a radar to like trigonometry, to how to observe the stars and calculate your position based on the stars in the night sky. So it's much more condensed than just learning how to tie a knot. That you also have to learn too. Okay. Tie a knot.
What's your favorite place that you've been to on the ship, or even just like what part of the ocean?
The favorite part would be New York and Hong Kong, just the harbor itself, because there's nothing that will beat Hong Kong's night city, cityscape, the silhouette of the night lights of Hong Kong. Not even New York. I've been to Shanghai, and Shanghai, yeah, you can't match because Hong Kong is just so dense. It's so pretty at night. But going through Pacific Ocean, where you're thousands of kilometers away from any light pollution, you get to see very clear of the stars. Yeah, so I think that's my second favorite location or place that I'll say. Yeah.
Wow, that sounds wonderful. Just free of light pollution and looking up to the stars.
You can see it from my time lapse.
Yes, you can see it from his time lapse video. So we're actually down to our last question of the interview.
Okay.
Before we go, do you have anything extra you want to share or anything specific you want to talk about?
So I'll urge your audience to try dopamine detox, because consuming social media is good, but you have to find ways to trick your mind into doing things that you normally wouldn't. So if people will be like, oh, I need to lose weight. If you think about going an hour to a gym, it'll be really daunting for you. But if you can trick your mind and just say, oh, maybe I'll go for 5 minutes and 10 minutes, give yourself a baby step, easier. For me, I tend to put the instant dopamine hits activities towards the end of the day, because if you wake up and you start scrolling your Instagram feed, then your brain is already wired to needing more dopamine. Yeah.
For the final question, I asked this to all of my guests, is can you share with us one thing that you love about yourself?
That's a really good question.
Thanks, I know.
Yeah. I think I love the aspect of being critical of myself. Critique. I think it's an important trait to have, to constantly try to improve oneself. Yeah.
I love that because I think this is absolutely something to love, and I know some people might think this trait like in a negative light, like, oh, like I should like do this better, and like, but I think this is so essential to growth that you really need to reflect and look at, okay, this is what I did in a very objective way, I guess. Yeah, and in order for you to learn.
But it's also important to not take it to extreme. Some people, they're too critical of themselves, and it becomes like they handicap themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to add on one more question to this, do you have any tools or anything that you use to like, at the end of each week I need to like write down like what I did, or is it just like you're just in your head like, oh, okay, today this and that, I'll do better next time?
No, but I think I get a lot of help from my friends. So my best friends are the people who will critique me and tell me. So for example, when I post any video online, I will always show to my friends, and I think my friends will they'll critique it mercilessly. They'll tell me honest opinion, but they're less they're more, how to say it, I'm really critical of myself, and their critique of me is always more encouraging, so it's less harsh of me. Yeah. So I think having friends who will critique you and give you an honest opinion is very important, very helpful.
Oh, I love that. Like, friends who give honest opinions, but still like, you can do it. Yeah. So thank you for sharing with us today. How can the audiences find you on your social media?
On YouTube, you can find me on Jeff HK, JEFFHK, and on Instagram, you can find me on Jeffrey.hk, JEFFREY.hk.
Thank you so much. So let us all wish Jeff a good next trip on the sea. And we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah.
Bye.